Hello, my name is Lauren Dawson, and this is the story of how my family taught me that love was just another word for control. I grew up in a house that looked perfect from the outside, elegant, pristine, full of wealth. But inside, it was suffocating. It was a prison built on power, favoritism, and quiet betrayals. When I finally broke free, I thought I was done with them. But last Thanksgiving, I made a mistake. I came back. I walked through those cold mansion doors, sat at that long dining table, and listened as my father made his grand announcement. He wasn't celebrating my career, my success. No, all that mattered was my younger brother, Lucas, the golden child, the one they had spent a significant investment on. Something didn't sit right. So, I checked my bank account. And just like that, I learned the truth. My college fund, my future, had been drained. Taken, stolen. And do you know what they said when I confronted them? "You already have a good job, Lauren. Lucas needed this more than you did." That was the moment I realized. I was never part of this family. I was just another asset to be used. But they made one mistake. They thought I would stay silent. They thought I would accept it. Instead, I sent them something unexpected. When they opened what they thought was an engagement invite, they found something else. Legal papers. Because this time, I'm not playing by their rules. The Dawson estate loomed in front of me, its grand facade bathed in the soft glow of evening lights. Elegant, timeless, imposing, just like the people inside. My childhood home had always felt more like a monument than a place of warmth. And tonight, that feeling pressed against my chest like a stone. The driveway was lined with expensive cars, each one a symbol of the prestige my father, Robert Dawson, valued above all else. I knew what awaited me beyond those towering double doors: scrutiny, expectations, and the suffocating weight of being the daughter who never quite fit. Stepping inside, the familiar scent of polished wood and expensive perfume filled my senses. The chandeliers overhead cast a golden hue over the marble floors, but even their warmth couldn't chase away the chill running through me. "Lauren," my mother's voice rang out before I had a chance to breathe. Catherine Dawson stood near the grand staircase, her tailored dress pristine, her expression unreadable. "I was beginning to think you weren't coming." I forced a polite smile, stepping forward. Traffic was heavy. Her eyes flicked over me, pausing at my simple black dress. "Still working in that field?" The way she said it, architecture might as well have been a dead-end job. I bit back the urge to remind her that my firm had just secured a major contract. "Yeah, still working." A flicker of disapproval crossed her face before she smoothed it away, gesturing toward the dining room. "Everyone's waiting." I followed her through the hallway, past portraits of the Dawson lineage, paintings of men who had built fortunes, controlled industries, and dictated legacies. No women graced these walls. My mother existed in their world as an ornament, and I was the disappointment. The dining room was filled with laughter and conversation, but the moment I stepped inside, the energy shifted. Eyes glanced my way, some offering polite nods, others pretending not to notice me at all. At the head of the table sat Robert Dawson, my father. Powerful, calculated, utterly unreadable. Beside him, my younger brother, Lucas, exuded the effortless confidence of a man who had never known what it was like to be overlooked. "Lauren!" Lucas grinned, standing to embrace me. Unlike our father, he had a charm that masked the sharp edges beneath. "Glad you could make it." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, though the lie sat heavy on my tongue. As we took our seats, I noticed the way my father's hand rested on Lucas's shoulder, a silent declaration of where his loyalty lay. Dinner began with the usual pleasantries: business updates, investment chatter, casual remarks that held more weight than they appeared to. I barely spoke, letting the conversation swirl around me like a current I had no desire to fight. Then, my father cleared his throat, the room falling into a hush. "We have some important news to share tonight," he announced, his voice steady, commanding. Our family has made a significant investment in Lucas's future. I set my fork down, fingers tightening around my napkin. The word investment sent an uneasy pulse through my veins. Lucas has been given the opportunity to expand our business overseas, my father continued, pride evident in his tone. This is a major step forward for him, and for us. The table erupted into murmurs of approval, hands reaching for champagne glasses in celebration. I stayed still, an odd sensation creeping up my spine. Something wasn't right. Lucas caught my expression and gave me a placating smile. It's a huge opportunity, Lauren. The family is backing me on this. I forced a nod, but my stomach twisted. My family had never simply given anything. Every gesture, every dollar came with an agenda. I reached for my phone under the table, suddenly needing a distraction. As I absently opened my banking app, my breath caught in my throat. My college fund. Gone. I blinked, willing the numbers to change. I had left that account untouched for years, a safety net I'd built for myself in case I ever needed to escape this family's grasp. And now, it was empty. A cold wave of realization crashed over me. The investment my father had spoken of. It wasn't just in Lucas's career. It was stolen from me. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat, struggling to keep my face neutral as the room buzzed with congratulations. No one knew, no one cared, that my future had just been erased in a single transaction. I clenched my phone, fingers shaking. This couldn't be real. Robert Dawson looks up from his glass of whiskey as I push open the heavy study door, my pulse hammering in my ears. The dim lighting casts deep shadows across the bookshelves lining the walls, their polished wood reflecting the soft glow from the fireplace. The entire room reeks of power and control, his domain, his throne. He sets his glass down with deliberate ease, fingers tapping lightly against the rim as he studies me. What do you want, Lauren? I grip my phone tighter, the screen still displaying the horrifying reality of my drained account. My voice comes out sharper than I intend. Where is my money? He sighs, as if I'm nothing more than an inconvenience. Be specific. I step forward, planting both hands on the mahogany desk. The money in my college fund, the savings I built, untouched for years. It's gone. And I know you had something to do with it. For a moment, he says nothing. Then, with infuriating calm, he leans back in his leather chair, lacing his fingers together. Ah, that. A bitter laugh escapes me. Yes, that. What the hell did you do? Robert tilts his head, not a single trace of remorse crossing his face. I used it. The words land like a slap, my breath catching in my throat. Used it, I echo, disbelieving. That was my money! He raises a hand, as if I'm overreacting. And Lucas needed it more. A sickening silence stretches between us. You stole from me, I say through clenched teeth. You took my future and handed it to him like a damn gift. Lauren, don't be dramatic, he replies, his tone dismissive. You already have a good job. You're making something of yourself. Lucas needed this investment for his career. It was a necessary decision. The room tilts for a moment. I stare at him, waiting for some hint of regret, some flicker of acknowledgement that what he did was wrong. But there's nothing. Just cold, calculated justification. You didn't even ask me, I whisper, because it wouldn't have changed anything. Heat flares in my chest, the weight of every past slight, every overlooked achievement pressing down on me. You don't get to decide that. That money was mine. I earned it. Lauren. A voice interrupts softly. I turn to see my mother standing in the doorway, arms crossed delicately over her chest. Unlike my father's blunt force, Catherine Dawson wields manipulation like a fine-tuned weapon. Her gaze is measured, her expression the perfect blend of understanding and quiet authority. We understand this is upsetting for you, she says, stepping into the room. But you need to look at the bigger picture. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. Oh, please enlighten me. She sighs, like she's speaking to a child throwing a tantrum. Your father only did what was best for the family. This isn't about taking from you, sweetheart. It's about ensuring stability for all of us. Stability? My voice rises. By stealing from me? You think that's fair? Catherine moves closer, lowering her voice as if to soften the blow. Fair is relative, Lauren. You're doing well. You don't need the money like Lucas does. Architecture is unstable. You've worked hard, but let's be honest. It's not the future we wanted for you. I freeze. There it is. The real truth buried beneath their justifications. This isn't just about the money. It's about control. They never wanted me to have independence. They wanted me to fall in line, to let them mold me into something more acceptable. My mother sits on the edge of the desk, her tone shifting to something almost coaxing. There is a way to fix this. You can have your money back. My stomach clenches. What's the catch? Catherine exchanges a glance with Robert before turning back to me. If you agree to leave architecture and pursue something more stable, something we can support, then we will replenish your account. You won't have to struggle. We'll take care of you. I blink at her, stunned. This isn't just theft, it's coercion. They want to buy my compliance, to force me into a future I never wanted in exchange for something that was already mine. The sheer audacity of it knocks the air from my lungs. You think you can buy me? I ask, my voice a dangerous whisper. Catherine reaches for my hand, but I pull away. Lauren, we just want what's best for you. A slow, disbelieving smile tugs at my lips, but it holds no warmth. Number, you want what's best for you. Robert exhales impatiently. Enough of this. You can take our offer, or you can move forward without our help, but you will respect the decision that was made. I take a step back, my fists clench so tight my nails dig into my palms. Do you really think I'm going to bow down to you? Maggie opens the door to her apartment, her brows knitting together as she takes one look at me. Her concern is immediate, the warmth in her eyes a stark contrast to the cold, calculated world I just left behind. They're not going to stop, Lauren, she says, stepping aside to let me in. I don't answer right away. My body moves on autopilot as I step into the familiar space, the scent of cinnamon from a forgotten candle on the counter, the low hum of jazz playing softly in the background, the scattered notes and files from Maggie's work spread across the coffee table. It's a mess, but it's safe. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Maggie closes the door behind me. Sit. Talk. I collapse onto her worn-out couch, pressing my fingers against my temples as I recount everything. The dinner, the missing money, the way my father dismissed me as if I were an afterthought. Maggie listens, arms crossed, nodding along, but the more I speak, the tighter her expression becomes. When I finish, she exhales, shaking her head. I knew they were ruthless, but this? She pushes a hand through her hair. That's another level. I scoff, bitter. They think they own me. They do own you, Lauren, Maggie says, matter of fact. Or at least, they think they do. I lift my chin. They don't, not anymore. Maggie studies me for a moment, then moves to her desk. She pulls open a drawer and retrieves a thick, overstuffed file. The worn edges and bent corners suggest it's been handled more times than I'd like to know. She walks back and places it in my lap. I think you need to see this. A weight settles in my chest as I look at the folder, my fingers hesitating before flipping it open. The first page is a bank statement, mine. Or at least, it was mine. The balance reads 0. The transaction history shows massive withdrawals dating back years, draining the account bit by bit. My breath catches. This isn't recent, I murmur. Maggie shakes her head. They didn't just take your money for Lucas. Your fund was emptied years ago, long before this supposed investment in him. I flip the page. More financial records, more withdrawals. But the numbers don't add up. Some money was funneled into accounts under Lucas's name, but the majority, far more than I had in that fund, was moved elsewhere. I turn another page. My father's name stares back at me, bold and undeniable. What the hell is this? My voice comes out uneven, but my grip on the pages tightens. Maggie exhales. It's what I've been trying to tell you. Your dad didn't just steal your savings to help Lucas. He used it to cover his own financial mess. I shake my head, disbelieving. That's not possible. He's Robert Dawson. He's one of the wealthiest men in Savannah. On paper, maybe. Maggie sits beside me, resting an elbow on the couch's arm. But these records tell a different story. Loans, investments that tanked, hidden transfers to offshore accounts, and now, this. She taps the last page. It's a document I don't immediately recognize. Something about a private bank loan signed under the Dawson family name. I stare at it, realization hitting like a punch to the gut. He's drowning, I whisper. Maggie nods. And he's been using every resource, every person he can to stay afloat. The anger bubbling inside me turns into something heavier. They knew. My parents knew. They've always known. And they still sat there tonight, looking me in the eye, lying to my face. Maggie sighs. Look, I don't want to tell you what to do, but if you go after him for this, you're not just fighting a man with money. You're fighting a man with desperation. I press my lips together, my heartbeat thrumming loud in my ears. He thinks I'll stay quiet. Maggie doesn't say anything. She doesn't have to. I lift my chin, staring at the documents one last time, before closing the file with finality. He's dead wrong. Stephen Klein pushes a thick folder across his desk, his gaze sharp and assessing. If this is true, we can take Robert Dawson to court. I stare at the folder, my pulse drumming in my ears. The sleek office around me, glass walls, polished wood, shelves stacked with legal books, feels suffocating. The weight of what I'm about to do settles in my chest like a stone. Maggie sits beside me, her expression unreadable, but I know her well enough to sense the quiet storm behind her calm. She had insisted on coming with me, convinced that I needed backup. I was grateful, even if I hadn't said it out loud. I reach for the folder, flipping it open. Inside are copies of the documents Maggie uncovered. The forged loan under the Dawson family name, the missing funds, the offshore transfers tied directly to my father. It's all there. It is true, I say, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside me. Stephen leans back in his chair, steepling his fingers. Then let's talk about what this means. I grip the edges of the folder, bracing myself. You have a few options, he continues. The first is to confront him directly, threaten legal action, and attempt to settle privately. Given your father's reputation, that might be his preferred route. Maggie snorts. Robert Dawson doesn't settle. He destroys obstacles. Stephen nods. Which is why option 2 is a full lawsuit. We take this to court, expose everything, and force him to pay. I exhale slowly. What are my chances? If the evidence holds up? Strong. But Robert Dawson is not just any businessman. He has deep connections, legal teams that have buried scandals bigger than this. He won't go down without a fight. The room is silent for a long moment. I think of my mother's voice, so smooth in its manipulation. You can have your money back if you walk away from architecture. I think of my father's dismissive tone. Lucas needed it more. They had counted on me doing what I always did, accepting it, biting my tongue, playing the part of the obedient daughter. Not this time. I want to fight, I say, my decision solidifying with every breath. Stephen studies me, his expression unreadable. Then he nods. All right. Then we start by gathering more evidence. He reaches for a separate file and pulls out a few sheets. I have contacts who can dig into the offshore accounts. If we find a direct link between those funds and fraudulent activity, we'll have an even stronger case. I nod, but something gnaws at me. What about Lucas? He was a recipient of some of the money. Will this hurt him? Maggie shifts beside me. You're still protecting him? I hesitate. I don't know. Lucas had been given everything, handed opportunity after opportunity, while I had been left to fend for myself. And yet, a small part of me still wanted to believe he wasn't fully complicit. Stephen exhales. Lucas could be a liability, but if he wasn't actively involved in the fraud, he won't take the brunt of this. The focus is Robert. I nod, absorbing the information. One last thing, Stephen says, tapping the desk. Once we move forward, things will escalate. Your father will retaliate. I meet his gaze, my hands curling into fists. Let him. Maggie reaches over, squeezing my arm. You're not alone in this. For the first time in years, I believe her. Lucas swirls the whiskey in his glass, his fingers tapping against the rim as he watches me approach. The dim lighting of the bar casts deep shadows across his face, making his expression unreadable. He exhales, slow and measured, before speaking. So, you really want to destroy this family? His voice is quiet, but there's a sharpness to it that cuts through the ambient hum of conversation around us. I stop beside his table, letting the words settle between us. There's no heat in his tone, no outright anger, just a quiet accusation laced with exhaustion. I slide into the seat across from him. I'm not the one who did the destroying, Lucas. His lips press into a thin line as he takes a slow sip of his drink. He doesn't argue, doesn't deny it, just stares into the amber liquid like it holds all the answers. Did you know? I ask, keeping my voice even. About the money? Lucas sets his glass down, running a hand through his hair. Lauren? Did you know? He leans back, letting out a slow breath. I knew about some of it, he admits, finally looking up at me. Not everything. Dad told me you agreed to help the family, that you... I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. Agreed? You actually believed that? Lucas clenches his jaw, eyes flickering with something, guilt, maybe, or frustration. What was I supposed to think? They said you understood, that you knew this was the best way to... The best way to what? I snap. To fund your career? To fix Dad's mistakes? To erase me? His gaze darkens. That's not fair. I fold my arms, leaning forward. You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about how I worked my ass off while you got handed everything. Let's talk about how I built my future, only to have it stolen because our father decided you were more important. Let's talk about how you stood by and let it happen. Lucas doesn't speak. His grip on his glass tightens, knuckles white. A sharp laugh escapes me. You didn't even question it, did you? He exhales sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. Of course I questioned it. But what was I supposed to do, Lauren? Say no? Walk away? You could have said something. You could have asked me. Lucas shakes his head. And what would that have changed? I stare at him, feeling something inside me crack. My own brother. My own flesh and blood. He let this happen. Lucas looks away first, his fingers drumming against the table. You think you can fight him? It's barely above a whisper, but the weight behind the words makes my chest tighten. I swallow my anger, meeting his gaze. No, Lucas. He controls you. A flicker of something crosses his face, but it's gone too fast for me to place. He shifts in his seat, looking past me like he's searching for an answer he doesn't want to find. I push back my chair, standing. I'm done letting him take from me. If you want to keep pretending this is okay, go ahead, but I won't. Lucas doesn't stop me as I walk away. I step out into the cool night air, the sounds of the city a welcome contrast to the suffocating weight of that conversation. Behind me, through the bar's window, Lucas remains frozen in his seat, staring into his glass, torn between the family that raised him and the truth he can't ignore. Maggie throws a newspaper onto the table, her face flushed with anger. They just painted you as a lunatic in the press. We need to hit back, now. I blink at her, still groggy from the restless night before. My fingers curl around the edge of the paper as I pull it closer. The bold black headline glares up at me. Lauren Dawson. A daughter's revenge? My stomach twists. I skim the article, bile rising in my throat as I take in the carefully crafted narrative. It paints me as a bitter, jealous woman, lashing out at my family because I could never measure up. A source close to the family, which is clearly Robert, or one of his lapdogs, claims, Lauren always felt overshadowed by Lucas. Now she's trying to bring everyone down with her. I slam the paper shut, my pulse pounding in my ears. Maggie paces the room, her hands balled into fists. This is classic character assassination. He's trying to discredit you before you even step foot in a courtroom. I take a slow breath, forcing myself to steady the rage boiling inside me. And people are going to believe it, Maggie scoffs. Of course they will. Your father's been grooming the public for years, making sure no one questions his version of the truth. She gestures to the newspaper. But this? This isn't just about smearing you. It's a warning. He's telling you to back off. I grip the paper tighter, my nails digging into the thin material. My hands tremble, but not with fear, with fury. I expected resistance. I expected manipulation. But this? Turning me into the villain in my own story? Reducing years of sacrifice and pain into nothing more than sibling rivalry? I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. He thinks this will scare me. Maggie stops pacing, watching me carefully. Does it? I meet her gaze, my jaw tightening. No. A beat of silence passes between us. Then my phone buzzes. I glance at the screen, unfamiliar number. I hesitate for half a second before answering. Lauren Dawson? A female voice asks. Who's asking? This is Jess Harper. I'm an investigative journalist. Maggie's eyes widen. She mouths, Jess Harper? I barely nod in response. Jess continues. I'm calling because I have something Robert Dawson doesn't want the world to see. I straighten, gripping the phone tighter. I'm listening. A pause. Then, I can't talk over the phone. But trust me when I say, this could change everything. My pulse quickens. I exchange a glance with Maggie, who's already nodding, her expression urgent. Jess's voice is calm but firm. Are you ready to turn the tables? I inhale deeply, forcing control over my racing thoughts. Then I exhale slowly, the fire in my chest settling into something sharper, more focused. Yes. Robert Dawson sits in his office, the dim light casting sharp shadows across his face. His fingers tighten around his phone as he speaks, voice like steel. I don't care that she's my daughter. Find a way to stop her. A pause. The person on the other end murmurs something, but Robert's expression doesn't change. His jaw clenches, his knuckles white against the polished wood of his desk. She has no idea what she's dealing with, he mutters, more to himself than to the caller. I built this empire. I won't let her tear it down. His free hand hovers over a stack of documents, legal briefs, media statements, emergency strategies, damage control. He's always been a step ahead, always known how to manipulate a situation before it spiraled out of control. But this time, there's a wild card. Lauren, his daughter, the one he underestimated. He exhales sharply, shifting his focus. Summon the legal team. I want every loophole explored, every potential lawsuit filed. Find a way to silence her before this spreads. Another pause. Then Robert's lips curve into something resembling a smirk. And get in touch with the media. I want more coverage. Paint her as unstable, irrational. If we control the narrative, she loses credibility. He hangs up without waiting for a response. The door creaks open, and Lucas steps in, his expression tense. His gaze flickers toward the scattered papers, the half-empty glass of scotch, the weight of an empire teetering on the edge. Robert doesn't look up. We need you to make a statement. Lucas hesitates. What kind of statement? His father finally meets his eyes. You need to denounce her publicly. Make it clear that she's acting alone. Distance yourself. Lucas shifts, crossing his arms. You want me to throw my own sister under the bus? Robert's gaze sharpens. She's doing this to herself. Silence. Lucas swallows, then forces out. Are you sure about this? If this goes south, the whole family will be ruined. Robert slams his fist against the desk. The sound echoes through the room like a gunshot. We will be ruined if she wins. His voice is low, dangerous. You don't have a choice. For the first time, Lucas doesn't immediately respond. His father's words are absolute, a command rather than a discussion, but something inside him shifts. He lowers his head, nodding stiffly before stepping back toward the door. His hand hovers over the handle, his mind racing. For the first time in his life, he isn't sure if his father is right. Maggie slams a newspaper onto the table, her eyes blazing with fury. "They just called you a liability to the company. This is war." I pick up the paper with measured movements, though my pulse is hammering. The front page features a picture of me, an old one from a charity gala years ago, back when I was still playing the role of Robert Dawson's obedient daughter. Lauren Dawson, the bitter heiress, clawing for relevance. I force myself to read it, even as my stomach twists. The article paints me as an unstable, jealous woman who couldn't handle living in Lucas's shadow. It suggests that I'm making baseless accusations against my own family as a desperate grab for attention. They don't outright say I'm lying, but they don't have to. The implication is enough. Maggie is pacing beside me, barely containing her anger. "This is calculated. Every word, every angle, every source. They're making you look like an unhinged brat who just wants to tear down her own family." I flip through the rest of the newspaper, my movements slow, deliberate. Another article, another headline. Lucas Dawson's rise. How the Golden Son overcame family, struggles to lead the future. They're propping him up, elevating him, making sure the public sees him as the true heir of Robert Dawson's empire, while simultaneously tearing me down. Maggie glares at me. "Why aren't you saying anything? Are you not furious right now?" Oh, I am. But fury alone won't win this fight. I exhale through my nose, folding the paper neatly before setting it back on the table. They're doing exactly what I expected them to. Maggie pauses, watching me closely. "And?" I lift my gaze to hers. "And I'm not playing their game." Before she can respond, my phone buzzes. I glance at the screen. Unknown number. Maggie leans in. It could be another hit piece waiting to happen. Or it could be something else entirely. I answer. "Lauren Dawson." A woman's voice comes through the line. Smooth, steady. "Jess Harper, I believe we spoke briefly before." I straighten. "I remember." "I have something Robert Dawson doesn't want the world to see." Maggie's eyes widen. She grabs her laptop, already preparing to dig into whatever Jess is about to reveal. I tighten my grip on the phone. "Tell me." Jess is quiet for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. "Not over the phone. Meet me at Cafe Bellamy in an hour. You'll want to see this in person." I hesitate for only a second. Then, "I'll be there." Cafe Bellamy is quiet in the late afternoon, the warm glow of the setting sun casting long shadows across the wooden tables. I spot Jess instantly, a sharp, poised woman with a folder resting beside her untouched cup of coffee. She watches me approach, then gestures to the seat across from her. "Lauren!" I sit, my heartbeat steady but alert. "What do you have?" Jess slides the folder across the table. "Evidence." I pull it toward me, flipping it open. The first thing I see is a set of bank statements. At first glance, they seem ordinary, until I notice the offshore account. The name attached to it, Robert Dawson. I inhale sharply. Jess watches me carefully. That account has been active for years. It's where he's funneled money that was never supposed to leave the company. Stolen funds, fraudulent transfers. This could bring him down. I keep flipping. More transactions. Shell companies. Falsified reports. This is it. The proof I need. I lift my gaze to hers. My fingers tighten around the folder. It's time to take him down. Robert Dawson leans back in his leather chair, a smirk playing at his lips as the news anchor drones on about the latest corporate drama. Someone else's scandal, not his. A glass of whiskey sits untouched beside him, the amber liquid catching the dim glow of his office lamp. He has won. Lauren is done. The media storm he orchestrated had done its job. Public opinion had turned against her, branding her as the bitter, jealous daughter grasping for relevance. His legal team was working to shut down any further action she might take. It was only a matter of time before she crumbled under the weight of it all. Then his phone buzzes. Robert glances at it lazily, expecting an update from his lawyer or another news cycle confirming his victory. But when he sees the notification, his smirk falters. Breaking news. Robert Dawson under investigation for financial fraud. The blood drains from his face. His fingers tighten around the phone as he taps the alert, eyes scanning the article. His name dominates the headline, followed by a damning list of allegations. Secret offshore accounts linked directly to his name. Misappropriated company funds traced to personal expenditures. Falsified business expenses spanning the last decade. The words blur together, but the weight of them is unmistakable. Someone leaked the documents. His chest tightens as he scrolls further. The article cites an unnamed whistleblower, someone with insider knowledge of Dawson Enterprises' financial dealings. Lauren. Robert slams his glass onto the desk, the sharp crack of crystal against wood reverberating through the silent office. He forces himself to take slow, steady breaths. This isn't over. This can't be over. His hands move on instinct, dialing his lawyer. "Paul!" he barks the moment the call connects. "Tell me this is a mistake." A pause. Then Paul exhales. "I was about to call you. It's not just a headline, Robert. The Securities and Exchange Commission is looking into the allegations. And it's worse than that." "Worse!" Robert snarls. "The board has scheduled an emergency meeting." Silence. Robert's grip on the phone tightens. "They're considering a vote to suspend you as CEO," Paul continues, his voice tense. "They're afraid the investigation could bring the company down with you." Rage surges through him. "I built this company," he snaps. "They wouldn't dare." "Robert," Paul's tone shifts, the edge of formality fading. "They will if they think it's the only way to survive." For the first time, a ripple of panic threads through him. The board has always been predictable. Cautious, yes, but loyal. But if they're willing to even entertain the idea of cutting him loose, his mind races. Who else is involved in this? Who is whispering in their ears? Lauren. Of course it's her. She thinks she's won. She thinks this is the end. But she's wrong. He won't let her take everything from him. Robert leans forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. She thinks she's won. His knuckles turn white around the phone. Not yet. I lean back in my chair, exhaling as I read the same headline for the third time. Robert Dawson under investigation for financial fraud. Maggie sits across from me, legs crossed, her grin wide with satisfaction. We did it, she says, lifting her coffee mug in a mock toast. This is the beginning of the end for him. I should feel triumphant. I should be celebrating. Instead, a cold unease settles in my chest. It's not over yet. The man I grew up fearing isn't the type to let everything slip through his fingers without a fight. Robert Dawson is many things. Ruthless, manipulative, power-hungry. But weak has never been one of them. And that terrifies me. My phone buzzes against the wooden table, vibrating insistently. I glance down at the screen. Lucas. Maggie raises an eyebrow. Are you answering that? I hesitate. Then I swipe to accept. Lucas's voice comes through the speaker, lower than usual, strained. Lauren. I don't say anything, letting him be the first to break the silence. A deep breath, then. Dad's losing control. The board is meeting tomorrow. They might remove him. My fingers tighten around the phone. They're actually considering it? More than considering it. Lucas sighs. They're looking for a way to push him out without tanking the company's reputation any further. I glance at Maggie, who's already reading my expression. This is happening. Lucas clears his throat. I know you wanted this, but are you sure? The hesitation in his voice is unmistakable. The brother who once stood firmly in our father's shadow, who never questioned his authority, is finally wavering. I press my lips together, then answer. It's what he deserves. A long silence follows. When Lucas speaks again, his voice is softer. I don't think he ever saw this coming. I let out a dry laugh. That's his problem, isn't it? He never thought anyone could stand up to him. Another pause. Then, be careful, Lauren. The call ends. I stare at the screen, my reflection barely visible in the blackened glass. Lucas might be wavering, but Robert isn't done. Not yet. Meanwhile, across town, Robert Dawson stands in the center of his office, his posture stiff, eyes hard as he glares at the men seated before him. His inner circle, advisors, lawyers, crisis management specialists, every single one of them is useless. The room is thick with tension as one of the senior advisors clears his throat. Robert, we need to discuss your position at Dawson Enterprises. Robert's jaw tightens. My position, he repeats, voice cold. If you step down voluntarily, it'll look better for the company. The board is... No. The room goes silent. Robert straightens his cuffs, exuding the same authority that's kept his empire intact for decades. I built this company. I made every single one of you wealthy. And now you expect me to walk away? A younger lawyer shifts in his seat. If the board votes against you, you won't have a choice. Robert stares at him, unblinking. There is always a choice. He turns toward the window, looking out over the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Lauren is watching this unfold, thinking she's won. But she's wrong. He still has options. Later that night, back at my apartment, I sit in front of my laptop, scrolling through endless news articles, social media posts, and speculation about Robert's future. Every publication is covering it. The fall of a business mogul. Maggie paces behind me, running a hand through her hair. We should celebrate. I don't look up. Not yet. She sighs. You're really incapable of enjoying a victory, huh? Before I can respond, my laptop dings with a new email. My breath catches as I see the subject line. Confidential documents. Robert Dawson's forged loans. My pulse quickens as I open the message. Attached are several scanned documents, loan applications filed under my name. My name. My chest tightens. He didn't just steal my money. He forged loans under my identity. Maggie leans over my shoulder, eyes widening. Lauren, this is it. I stare at the documents, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Robert Dawson is finished. Time to end this. The courtroom is silent as Robert Dawson enters, his face a mask of control. He carries himself with the same arrogant confidence that has defined him for decades. But this time, I see something different in his eyes, a flicker of something he rarely allows himself to show. Doubt. The air is thick with tension. Reporters fill the gallery, their cameras poised, waiting for the downfall of a once revered businessman. The murmurs of speculation hush as the judge takes her seat. I sit across from my father, but this is no family dinner, no tense holiday gathering where his word is law. This is a battlefield, and for the first time, I'm armed with the truth. My lawyer, Stephen Klein, sits beside me, flipping through a thick stack of documents. He glances at me once before the proceedings begin. Are you ready? I nod. I've never been more ready in my life. Robert's attorney, a polished man in an expensive suit, rises first. Your Honor, my client is a victim of a deliberate campaign to destroy his reputation. These accusations have already caused irreparable harm to his career, his business, and his family. I watch as Robert maintains his usual composed expression. He's still playing the role, the misunderstood patriarch, the wrongfully accused businessman. The attorney continues, his voice smooth and confident. We are filing a countersuit against Miss Dawson for defamation and financial damages amounting to $10 million. A murmur spreads across the courtroom. Maggie, sitting behind me, stiffens in her seat. I don't react. I expected this. Stephen stands next. His voice is steady, unwavering. Your Honor, the evidence we present today will not only prove Mr. Dawson's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, but it will also expose his extensive history of financial misconduct. Miss Dawson is not the one who has harmed this family. Mr. Dawson has. The judge nods. Proceed. Stephen starts with the first piece of evidence, the forged documents. I hold my breath as he lays them out, detailing how Robert falsified loan applications under my name. Each signature, each document, each act of calculated betrayal. Mr. Dawson's actions were not only illegal, Stephen states, voice sharp, they were deeply personal. He didn't just steal from investors or business partners. He stole from his own daughter. Robert remains motionless, his face a carefully constructed mask. But I see the tightness in his jaw, the clench of his fingers, the barely contained fury beneath the surface. And then, the moment I've been waiting for. Lucas is called to the stand. I turn to look at him as he rises, walking slowly toward the witness stand. He's paler than usual, his expression tense. As he sits down, the bailiff swears him in. The courtroom is silent. Mr. Dawson, Stephen begins, you are Robert Dawson's son, correct? Lucas nods. Yes. Did you have knowledge of the financial transactions in question? A pause. Lucas glances at our father, then at me. I don't look away. Finally, he speaks. I knew about the missing money. My hands tighten in my lap. Stephen presses forward. And did you try to stop it? Lucas exhales, looking down at his hands. Then he shakes his head. No. The courtroom shifts, murmurs breaking out. I can feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us. But why? Stephen asks. Lucas hesitates. Then he lifts his head. Because my father told me Lauren had agreed to it, that she wanted to help the family. I hear Maggie curse softly behind me. I inhale sharply, trying to keep my emotions in check. Stephen leans in. And do you now believe that to be true? Lucas turns to look at me. He shakes his head. No. Another pause. Then, my father lied. The courtroom erupts. The judge bangs her gavel. Reporters scramble to capture the moment. I sit frozen, staring at my brother, my heart pounding. Lucas just did the one thing Robert never thought he'd do. He turned against him. I shift my gaze to my father. For the first time in my life, I see something I never imagined I would see in Robert Dawson. Defeat. His grip tightens on the table. His jaw clenches. His carefully built empire's crumbling, and he knows it. The end is coming. As I step out of the courtroom, the cold air fills my lungs, sharp and biting. The weight of the trial still lingers on my shoulders. But I know this war isn't over yet. Maggie's hand clamps around my arm before I can even take another step. It's not over, she says, her voice tight. He still has one move left. I turn to face her, my pulse quickening. What do you mean? Maggie scans the crowd, lowering her voice. Robert's working behind the scenes. He's calling in every favor he has left. If he can't win in court, he's going to make sure this case never sees the inside of one again. My stomach twists. I should have known. Of course, Robert Dawson would never go down without trying to manipulate the system one last time. We push through the throng of reporters, flashing cameras capturing my every move. My phone buzzes in my pocket, but I ignore it for now. I need a second to think, a moment to process how much deeper he's willing to dig into his own corruption just to save himself. Once we make it to the car, I finally turn to Maggie. Tell me everything. Inside my apartment, I pace the floor, heart pounding as Maggie lays it all out. He's bribing key figures to stall the case. If he gets to the right people, this lawsuit could be buried in red tape for years. I clench my fists. So what do we do? Maggie exhales sharply, running a hand through her hair. We need leverage, something that forces his hand. If we wait, we lose. My mind races. The evidence we presented was damning, but Robert has lived his whole life navigating around accountability. If anyone knows how to buy his way out, it's him. Then my phone buzzes again. I snatch it off the table and see Jess Harper's name flashing on the screen. I answer, barely managing a steady voice. Jess? Lauren. Her tone is urgent. I have something. Someone, actually. I exchange a glance with Maggie before stepping away, gripping the phone tighter. Who? A source inside Dawson Enterprises. They're willing to testify, but there's a catch. Of course there is. They're afraid. If they speak out, they need protection. I press my fingers to my temple, exhaling. And you trust them? Jess pauses. I do, but you need to act fast. If Robert finds out, he'll make sure they never get the chance to talk. I nod, though she can't see me. Where can I meet them? You can't, Jess says. Not yet, but they're willing to provide something else in the meantime, something big. What is it? There's a rustle on the other end of the line. Then Jess speaks again. Bank records, offshore accounts, money funneling, everything, direct ties to some very powerful people who will not be happy if this gets out. I inhale sharply. If that's true, this isn't just about Robert anymore. If I expose him now, I won't just be taking him down. I'll be taking down everyone who enabled him. Maggie must see the shift in my expression. What is it? She asks. I lower the phone slowly, my pulse hammering in my ears. We're going public. She nods, already grabbing her laptop. Then let's burn it all down. I stare at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The weight of the moment is pressing in on me, but there's no hesitation left. I type a single message to Jess. Get your cameras ready. Robert Dawson steps into the boardroom, his usual confident stride noticeably stiffer. The weight of something unseen presses down on the air, thick and suffocating. His advisors, men who had once hung on his every word, exchange glances but say nothing. He knows something is wrong. He knows before he even turns his head and sees the cameras. Before he registers the unfamiliar faces in the room, reporters, journalists, all poised like vultures, waiting for a dying animal to collapse. The Dawson Enterprises Board of Directors sits at the long, polished mahogany table, their expressions unreadable. The tension in the room coils tighter when a man steps forward, a man Robert recognizes. Anthony Graves, his own chief financial officer. Bile rises in Robert's throat. Not him. Lauren watches it all unfold from her own vantage point. She stands near the back of the room, next to Jess Harper, who has her recorder on, her phone streaming everything live. Robert squares his shoulders and approaches the board, his voice low but firm. What the hell is this? One of the board members, a gray-haired man who had once been an ally, clears his throat. Mr. Dawson, we've convened this meeting in response to certain allegations that have been brought to light. The cameras flash. Robert's jaw clenches. Allegations! He scoffs, shaking his head. You're entertaining rumors now? Anthony Graves steps forward. Not rumors. His voice is even, but the hint of guilt is there. Facts. Lauren sees it. The flicker of fear in Robert's eyes, quickly masked by cold fury. Then Anthony speaks again, and the room stills. Mr. Dawson, he begins, I have spent the last decade managing Dawson Enterprises financials under your direct orders. Today, I am coming forward to confirm that fraudulent activities have taken place within this company, activities that have personally benefited you at the expense of shareholders, investors, and even your own family. A ripple of whispers spreads through the boardroom. The reporters lean in, microphones at the ready. Robert doesn't blink. That's an outrageous accusation. Anthony remains steady. The offshore accounts in the Caymans, the misappropriated company funds, the falsified loan applications, the personal siphoning of money that should have gone to Dawson Enterprises itself. Click, click, click. More camera flashes. Lauren holds her breath, watching her father navigate the flames she set around him. He was always good at talking his way out of things. But not this time. Robert lets out a dry laugh. You have no proof. Jess Harper steps forward, holding up a folder. We do. She sets it down on the table in front of the board. Bank statements, signed documents, witness testimonies. It's all here. Robert's hand twitches. One of the board members opens the folder, scanning the contents. The moment their face pales, Lauren knows. It's over. The room descends into controlled chaos. Reporters hurl questions. Board members exchange urgent whispers. And Robert is silent. He knows there's no spinning this. The board chairwoman finally raises a hand. "I believe we have all seen enough," she says, voice firm. Effective immediately, Robert Dawson is removed as CEO of Dawson Enterprises. He will no longer have any involvement with this company in any capacity. Lauren watches as the words hit him like bullets. Removed. Barred. Erased. His life's work, the thing he fought tooth and nail to control, is gone in an instant. But the final blow hasn't landed yet. A pair of heels click against the floor. Catherine Dawson steps forward, Robert's wife, Lauren's mother. For years, she stood beside him, playing the role of the perfect corporate wife. For years, she excused his behavior, softened his cruelty, reinforced the family's image. For years, she played the game. But now, she looks at Robert with something unreadable in her eyes. And when she speaks, her voice is even. "You did this to yourself, Robert." For the first time, Robert is truly alone. The silence is suffocating. Robert turns his head, searching the room for an ally. For someone, anyone, who will stand by him. Lucas is standing by the door. Their eyes meet, but Lucas doesn't move. Doesn't step forward. Doesn't defend him. Robert's fists clench. A lifetime spent building an empire. A lifetime spent demanding loyalty. And now, at the end of it all, no one will even meet his eyes. Maggie walks beside me as we exit the building, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's over." I nod, but the word doesn't settle right in my chest. Is it over? The cool evening air feels different, lighter somehow, but the weight in my stomach refuses to lift. I should feel victorious. I should feel like I've won. Instead, there's only an odd hollow ache where my rage used to be. For years, I let my anger at Robert fuel me. It kept me standing when I wanted to fall, kept me fighting when I had no reason to. And now? The fight is over. The empire he built is crumbling. The board has cut him out, and his name is permanently tainted. So why doesn't it feel like enough? Hours later, I sit on the couch in my apartment, staring at the skyline through my window. Savannah stretches out before me, glittering against the night, a city moving forward even as I sit still. Maggie is in the kitchen, pouring wine into 2 glasses. She sets one down in front of me before dropping onto the couch with a sigh. "You're thinking too much." I let out a humorless laugh. "Hard not to." She studies me for a long moment. "You should be celebrating." I know she's right, but I don't have the energy to pretend. I swirl the wine in my glass, watching the deep red liquid catch the dim light. "It just doesn't feel the way I thought it would." Maggie exhales, setting her own glass aside. "You spent your whole life fighting him, Lauren. It's not easy to let go of a battle when it becomes part of who you are." She's right, of course. But before I can say anything, a knock sounds at my door. Maggie lifts a brow. "Expecting someone?" I shake my head and stand, padding barefoot across the room. When I pull open the door, I freeze. Lucas. His suit jacket is wrinkled, his tie loosened. There's a shadow of something unreadable in his eyes. "I didn't know where else to go," he says. Maggie shifts behind me, but I don't turn. I grip the edge of the doorframe, feeling the familiar tension tighten in my chest. He sighs, rubbing a hand over his face. I don't know what to do now. The admission stuns me. Lucas has always been the golden boy, the one who had everything handed to him, the one who never questioned where his next step would be. But now, with Robert's empire gone, he looks lost. For the first time, I see him not as my father's favorite, but as someone who was just as trapped as I was. I don't know if I can forgive him for standing by while Robert tore me down, but maybe, just maybe, I can understand. I step aside. "Come in." He exhales, shoulders sagging, and walks in. Maggie doesn't say anything, but I catch the flicker of approval in her eyes before she excuses herself to the kitchen, giving us space. Lucas sits on the couch, staring at his hands. I never wanted it to be like this. I stay silent, letting him talk. I spent so long thinking I had to be loyal to him, he continues, that if I did everything right, I'd be safe, that I wouldn't end up like you. His voice cracks slightly, and when he looks up, the rawness in his expression takes me off guard. But I was wrong. A lump forms in my throat. There was a time I would have relished this, watching Lucas realize that Robert was never the man he thought he was. But now, it just makes me tired. What are you going to do? I ask softly. He exhales. I don't know. Neither of us speaks for a long moment. Then, finally, I say, You'll figure it out. His lips twitch, almost like a smile. You always did. I let out a quiet breath. It's not an apology, but maybe it's enough for now. Later that night, after Lucas leaves, I find an envelope tucked under my door. My stomach tightens as I pick it up, fingers brushing over the familiar handwriting. Catherine Dawson. I carry it to the couch and sit down, hesitating before tearing it open. Inside, there's a single note. Not an apology, not an explanation, just a single, haunting sentence. Maybe one day you'll understand why I stayed. I stare at the words, my pulse steady, but my mind racing. I don't know if I'll ever understand. I don't know if I'll ever forgive her. But for the first time, I tuck the letter away instead of throwing it out, just in case. Much later, after Maggie has gone home and my apartment is silent, I step onto my balcony. The night air is crisp, carrying the distant hum of the city. I close my eyes, inhaling deeply, letting the coolness settle into my bones. For the first time in years, I feel truly free. The dim light flickers against the peeling wallpaper, casting uneasy shadows along the walls of the motel room. Robert Dawson sits on the edge of the bed, his back hunched, a bottle of whiskey resting on the nightstand. The ice in his glass has long since melted, watering down the burn he once welcomed. On the television, muted news coverage plays, his own name plastered across the screen in bold letters. Disgraced business tycoon Robert Dawson faces criminal charges. He should turn it off, should stop watching. But he doesn't. The phone beside him vibrates, rattling against the wood. An unknown number. He hesitates. Then, slowly, he picks it up. What do you want? The voice on the other end is clipped, professional. A lawyer. Not his. Not anymore. The lawsuits are moving forward, the man informs him. You should prepare yourself, Mr. Dawson. You're looking at real prison time. Robert exhales sharply, his grip tightening around the phone. He wants to argue, to call in a favor, to do something, anything. But he knows. There are no favors left to call, no allies willing to protect him, no power to wield. The line goes dead. Robert lowers the phone, staring blankly at the floor. His hands tremble as he sets the glass down, whiskey sloshing over the rim. For the first time in his life, he has nothing. The riverfront is quiet at this hour, the air crisp with the faint scent of salt. The city hums in the distance, but here, by the water, it feels detached, like a world Lauren can step in and out of as she pleases. She walks slowly, hands tucked into her coat pockets. It's over. She won. So why does it feel so strange? The hatred, the anger, the resentment. It was the fuel that kept her moving for years. And now, with Robert's empire gone, his reputation in ruins, there's an emptiness she hadn't expected. She stops at a bench, gazing at the rippling surface of the water. Footsteps approach from behind. Lucas. He doesn't speak right away, just sits beside her, hands clasped between his knees, watching the river like it holds all the answers. So, he says finally, voice quiet. This is the end, huh? Lauren exhales. I don't know. Maybe it's just the beginning. A small, humorless chuckle escapes him. Of what? She doesn't answer, because truthfully, she isn't sure. They sit in silence for a while, the wind tugging at loose strands of her hair. Lucas shifts beside her. I don't know where I belong anymore. Lauren glances at him, searching his expression. He looks different. Tired, yes. But there's something else there. Uncertainty. A lack of direction he's never had before. He sighs. I was always the golden child, but I never knew what that really meant. Now I don't have to be. She tilts her head. So what are you going to do? He huffs a laugh, shaking his head. That's the thing, I have no idea. For a long time, she would have used this moment to twist the knife, to remind him that he benefited from their father's manipulation while she was cast aside. But now, watching the lost look on his face, she realizes something. Lucas was never free either. Maybe none of them were. She leans back, exhaling into the cool night air. Then figure it out, Lucas. His head turns toward her, eyes narrowing slightly. But this time, she says, voice softer, do it for yourself. Lucas studies her for a moment. Then, slowly, he nods. He stands, shoving his hands into his pockets, staring out at the water for a few more seconds before turning away. Lauren watches him walk off, unsure if their relationship will ever truly heal. But at least, for the first time, they are both free to be their own people. Across the city, Robert remains in his motel room, gripping his glass with white-knuckled fingers. The empire he built is gone, and no one, not his family, not his colleagues, will even pick up the phone. The apartment is nearly empty now, the walls stripped of their memories, the floors cleared of footprints that once told a story. Boxes are stacked by the door, each one filled with fragments of a life Lauren is ready to leave behind. She exhales, staring out the window at the Savannah skyline one last time. This city had shaped her. It had tested her, broken her, and, in the end, forced her to rebuild herself. And now, it was time to go. Maggie steps inside, brushing dust off her hands. That's the last of it. She glances around. Weird seeing this place like this. Lauren smirks. Weirder knowing I won't be coming back. Maggie folds her arms, watching her carefully. Are you ready for this? Lauren doesn't hesitate. I've never been more ready. A knock at the door interrupts them. Lauren turns, and for a moment, she considers ignoring it. But when she pulls the door open, Lucas stands there, hands shoved into his pockets. They don't exchange pleasantries. They don't need to. He steps inside, looking around at the empty space, before holding something out. A roll of paper, yellowed with age, edges frayed. I found this in Dad's office, he says quietly. Thought you'd want it? Lauren unrolls it, eyes widening slightly. It's a blueprint. Her blueprint. The first building she ever designed, drawn with shaky hands, and an old pencil when she was just a kid. She exhales, tracing the lines with her fingers. I thought this was lost. Lucas shifts awkwardly. He kept it. Lauren nods, something tightening in her chest. After everything, she realizes, not all ties to her family have to be severed. Some, like this, are worth holding on to. Lucas glances at her. So, where are you going? Away, she says simply. Somewhere I can start over. Lucas hesitates, then nods. Good. That's all they say. No apologies, no forced reconciliations. Just a quiet acknowledgement of something neither of them can quite define. Lucas turns toward the door. Take care, Lauren. She watches as he leaves, wondering if this is the last time she'll see him. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But whatever happens, she knows one thing. They are finally free to be their own people. The drive to Catherine Dawson's house is silent. Lauren doesn't expect much, but she needs closure. Her mother opens the door, expression unreadable. You're leaving, Catherine states. Lauren nods. I am. A long pause. Then Catherine exhales, arms crossing. So this is it? You destroy everything and just walk away? Lauren meets her gaze without flinching. I didn't destroy anything. He did. Catherine doesn't answer, her lips pressing into a thin line. Lauren exhales slowly. She could argue. She could try to force her mother to see the truth. But she knows better now. People see what they choose to see. I hope one day you see things clearly, Lauren says instead. Then she turns away, for good. The highway stretches out before her, Savannah fading into the distance in her rearview mirror. The past is behind her now. A future she chooses is ahead. Her phone buzzes in the passenger seat. She picks it up, seeing Jess Harper's name flash across the screen. She presses accept. Jess, let's talk about a new project. A pause, then Jess chuckles. What kind of project? Lauren smiles to herself, feeling the wind whip through her hair as she rolls down the window. I want to build something real. Not for her father, not for her family name, for herself. For the first time in her life, Lauren Dawson is the architect of her own future. Life doesn't give you clarity, it makes you fight for it. Sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones who try to control you. But here's the truth. You are not defined by your past. You are not bound by anyone else's expectations. Strength isn't about winning battles. It's about choosing yourself, even when the world tells you not to. If you've ever felt lost, trapped, or underestimated, know this. You are more than what they tried to make you. If this resonates with you, subscribe and join me on this journey of reclaiming our own stories.